Good afternoon folks, it's Toad here from Visordown.com, and today is a very good day indeed because I'm at my favourite racetrack about to ride the best middleweight naked motorcycle on the planet. This is of course the newly updated 2023 Triumph Street Triple, and for this press riding launch we're going to be sampling both the R and the RS versions of the bike. We're going to be riding the RS on the track here at Jerez, and then tomorrow on the road we're going to be riding the R and the RS if we want to dabble in the two models. So I'm going to go through really quick what the bike is, what's happened to it, how much it is, and then what we're going to do, we're going to go and do our track sessions, which we've got 3 20-minute sessions on the track. We're going to go out and do that, and then I'm going to catch up with you a little bit later when I get back at the hotel. So first and foremost, this is I wouldn't say a gentle evolution of the Street Triple. It's had quite a big makeover really. Styling has been tweaked, the chassis has been tweaked slightly as well, and it's been given an IMU, which is something that was missing from the Street Triple family. There was a lot of other bikes in the middleweight naked class that have got IMU control for ABS and cornering traction control and wheelie control. This didn't have it. It has now, so we're going to be sampling that on the track. We've got the two versions of the Street Triple. So the R is £9,595. If you want one of the extra colour options on top of that, you've got another 200 quid to knock onto the price. The RS, which is this bike here, is 11,295, and again the same deal with the colours. If you want one of the special colours, it's an extra 200 quid. So the real focus for all of the Street Triple models for this update was really improving the agility of the bike. I mean, it sounds stupid to say that because the Street Triple was ridiculously agile. It's got gnat-like handling and it always has this. It's one of its really important attributes that it's quite famous for and very popular for. So they've tried to improve that. There's geometry changes, the suspension settings have been tweaked, and the RS has got a slightly steeper rake on the front end to make it feel a bit more pointy when you're throwing it into a corner. The RS also gets Brembo Stylema calipers, which are an upgrade over the standard R, and you get a MCS Brembo radial span and ratio adjustable brake lever as well. So it is an absolutely glorious day here at Jerez. This is my favourite track on the planet. I love this place. It's just brilliant. So I'm going to go and get my track sessions out of the way, and then I will catch up with you lot once I'm done. So there we go folks, that is our day on track at Jerez done and dusted, and it's been a very good day, but it always is when you're at this circuit. We've had 4 sessions, 4 20-minute sessions I think, to get to grips with the new Street Triple RS on God's greatest racing circuit. This is still the benchmark in the performance middleweight naked category. That hasn't changed, and to be honest with you, Triumph would have to have worked pretty hard to not improve on the previous Street Triple, because it was always an awesome bike. Wave at the camera.
Hola, hola, esta para mí.
So this has got more power than the previous generation Street Triple. More power is always welcome, but out on the track at Jerez, it was hard to put your finger on the extra that it had got, and I think that is because the agility of the bike now is such an assault on your senses around that circuit. It is just fiendishly agile. The chassis upgrades make it faster, sharper to turn, it's pointier, it just dives into corners, and it's just an absolute pleasure to ride. The chassis of this bike has always been sublime. They've changed the rake, the suspension settings are different, you've still got the Öhlins rear shock absorber. The Stylema brakes that are fitted to the RS, they are phenomenally good. I don't know that they've got more power than the brakes that are fitted to the standard R, but we'll find that out tomorrow when we ride on the road on the R and the RS, and I get to test them back to back. But what you do get is you get a really delicious brake feel. So the lever is absolutely fantastic. You've got an MCS span adjustable Brembo radially mounted master cylinder up there, and it just dares you to brake later and later and later. Last time I was here at Jerez, I was riding a Panigale V4, So my reference points were completely out the window. I was in the wrong gear in every corner for the first session, and it was just one of those where I had to rest and reset and then go again. And once I got my head around it and how late you can brake on this thing, because it is so much lighter than the last thing that I was riding here, it was an absolute pleasure. There was one eye-opening event from the track riding launch that we did today which really stuck in my mind, and when we arrived at the circuit we took the bikes out for session 1 and session 2, and unbeknownst to us the bikes were in what Triumph had called a sport suspension setting. So in the Showa fully adjustable forks and the Öhlins adjustable shock absorber, they'd got a sport setting, not a dedicated track setting. And I did find the bike quite soft. It was quite wallowy. The rear end was squatting under load in the faster corners, and the composure on the brakes at the front end wasn't quite where I needed it to be. It was still good, and it still felt like a street triple, but it just wasn't quite as composed as I'd have liked. For the final 2 sessions of the day though, we asked Felipe Lopez Cordoba, the chassis engineer here at Triumph, to dial in a more track focused setting, and that's exactly what he did. And I've got to tell you, the difference was night and day. This didn't feel like a Street Triple RS once he'd upped the preload and the damping rates in the suspension at the front and the rear. It felt like another model of Street Triple. The difference was absolutely huge. It felt like a Street Triple RR instead of a Street Triple RS. The fact that you can do that with this suspension is just absolutely mind-blowing, that there is that level of adjustability in there. So tomorrow what we're going to be finding out is we're going to be finding out how it handles on the roads. I've been told that the roads around here at Jerez, which I've never ridden the roads, I've only ever ridden the track, are very bumpy. So I'm interested to see if this suspension hardware can also be dialed to a much more comfortable, much more compliant setting for general road riding. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm off to the bar to have a beer, and I will speak with you when we get back from the road ride. Hi folks, so we are back from our road ride, and today we have been switching between the R and the RS, and I'm going to really mainly focus on the R, the Street Triple R, because I spoke a lot about the Street Triple RS yesterday when we finished the track sessions. So this part of the review is more about this particular model. We've done quite a lot of miles on the bike. We've been riding pretty much all day. It's been very, very fast. It's not been terribly twisty, and the roads are very, very bumpy, which was interesting because yesterday, the setup on the bike, as you heard in the piece to camera that I did yesterday, we got it tuned to a track setting. So I was interested to see how you could also make that into a more compliant setting. So I'm going to go through that in a moment. But what have we learned? Well, first and foremost, this model, the R, is the base model Street Triple that you can buy, but Triumph are telling us really that this is closer to the spec of the previous generation RS in terms of the electronics, the power. The only thing that is really missing that the old RS had is that Öhlins rear shock absorber. The rear shock absorber, I did miss the Öhlins on the road because it's so bumpy and it was so fast. We're doing lots of, I'm not going to say the numbers that we're doing, but we're going very, very quick. And on fast undulations in really fast corners, that Showa rear shock can be slightly upset and sort of put the bike into a little bit of a wiggle. It's not a huge problem, and there is probably something you can do with the adjustment on that rear shock just to try and dial a bit of that out. Another thing that I noticed was that this bike doesn't have the Brembo Stylema calipers. It's got slightly lower spec Brembo calipers, and you don't get the same sexy radial mounted master cylinder that you get on the RS. They don't actually buy you any more braking power. It seems to me to have the same braking power as the RS, but what you do get is you get a much nicer lever feel with the RS, and that's not detriment to this bike. It's just that the RS is miles above with that higher spec, probably more through the master cylinder. So this bike has slightly less power than the RS model that we were riding on track yesterday, and today what we did was we swapped bikes halfway through the day. So we did half the road ride on the R and then half the road ride on the S. I really couldn't put my finger on the power drop on this model. It wasn't really very easy to feel it on the road. If you took it on the track, it probably would be slightly easier to spot. There are some niggles with both the bikes, if I'm being completely honest. First and foremost, the rev counter, especially on the RS model, which has got a full screen TFT and no LED, is absolutely useless. I couldn't tell when I was hitting the red line, had to wait to bounce off the rev limiter before I change up a gear. that was a bit clumsy. As a performance-focused naked bike, I think this should, well, the RS should have a proper digital tacho where you can actually see the needle against the numbers and see when you're reaching the red line. What it's got on the TFT is kind of like a blob of colour that enlarges, and when it gets to the outside of the TFT screen, you're reaching the red line, but you really don't have time to look at that on the track. What you need is a really quick reference point. Yeah, I really want a tacho. There are options where you can change the layout of the dash, but all you can do is change the size of the tacho or just have a load of digital numbers in the middle of the screen, which is really no use to everyone. So that is something I'd like to change. Another problem that I found, and this was only riding on track, it wasn't riding on the road, so this is something to think about if you are somebody who regularly track days your street triple, or you're thinking of buying a street triple and you do a lot of track days. I have never, ever in my history of riding motorcycles eroded motorcycle boots like I did on this bike. I could not get my feet into the right position to stop them rubbing on the ground. And I had my feet right back on the pegs and they were tucked up right out of the way, but I have literally worn a hole in my boots to the point that when I was going down the straight at about 140 miles an hour, I could feel a draft coming into my boot. So there might be some aftermarket foot pegs that you can put on that slim it and maybe bring the foot pegs up a little bit higher. That was a big issue for me, so that would be something I would need to change. The final thing that I kind of don't like about the new street triples is you've got IMU control, which is brilliant. It was missing from the previous generation bikes, and a lot of other stuff in this range has got the IMU, which is a really important feature for governing the wheelie control, the lean sensitive traction control, and the ABS, of course. This has got all of that, and the lean sensitive traction control, ABS, they're all absolutely spot on. But the wheelie control, you can't govern how much wheelie control you want. You can't govern that intervention level. And to me, not being able to do that, again, on a performance naked, just seems like a little bit of a waste of that technology. Summing it up though, I mean, in my mind, this is still, despite those niggles, the benchmark in the performance naked category. Like I said earlier on, Triumph would have had to have done really hard not to have continued that theme on from the previous generation models, and they've absolutely smashed it out of the park on the road and the track with those sport settings, the track suspension settings on the track. It was an absolute dream. On the bumpy roads that we've been riding today, it was comfortable, it was compliant, and it wasn't jarring in any way, shape or form. I've waffled on for far too long and I desperately need a beer. So if you've liked this video, please drop a like, hit a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos. And for all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, get yourself over to Visordown.com. I'll see you on the next one, folks.